Hello, folks. How are you? Welcome to episode 47 of the Jibber Jab podcast here in Nova Scotia, Canada. John, my man, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, brother. Good to
Good.
see you, man.
Good,
Another beautiful day here. We thought it was going to be raining, but yeah.
Yeah, another beautiful day in the East Coast. The sun shining is a great thing for sure right now.
Man, what a difference.
Yeah, it makes a big difference in mental health. I know my mental health the last couple of days was struggling. You know, I'm kind of like just dying to get out of the house here and just kind of get back to normal. But you got to kind of keep it all together somewhat, I guess, right?
Yeah, man. Do what you got to do, I guess. But absolutely getting out in nature and out in the sun, the fresh air is good for your body and your mind.
Yeah,
necessary.
Yeah, it really, really is. So, we got a great episode lined up here tonight, John. Really excited about it. Two people that are experts, I guess we'll call them in their field. First is a Canadian legend in music, two-time Juno Award winner. Man, the list goes on and on with this guy. He's the band the Killjoys. I believe it's a punk band called Simple Saucer back in the 70s and 80s. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not, John. I was looking it up a little bit last night. It's very, very good. Just an all-around kind of icon in Canadian music. And I kind of wanted to bring him on. He has a connection with Nicky Heinrichs a little bit there. He's involved in horror movies now and kind of in behind the scene and the production kind of side. So for us, anytime we can chat with somebody who's involved in, he's toured the world with high-level bands. And he is a high-level musician himself. So anytime you can get to chat with those kind of people, you obviously can grab it. So super excited. Why don't we bring him on?
Let's do it, man.
All right. Trebilcock. Let's bring him on, folks. How are you, sir? Welcome to the show.
Good. Thanks for having me.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely honored. Thank you very much for joining us.
Of course.
Yeah, good to see you, sir.
How's life in your area?
It's not too bad, actually. It's lousy weather today, but other than that, it's all right. We're all just hanging out like everybody.
Yeah.
The way things have actually been not that different for me these days because I compose for films, so I'm home a lot, sitting in this same chair. And now the one big difference is the teaching. I teach kids guitar and stuff, and it all moved online. So I can do that all from here as well. So, I'm composing all day and then teaching and then back to composing again at night. So a lot of time in a chair, but other than that, it's not so bad.
Has the video or the film industry slowed down at all as far as you're concerned, or you still have projects that
the production has slowed down, but there's movies that have been shot already that are just in post-production now. So I'm doing a lot of post-production for movies that, they're thinking there might be some content needed, in a couple of months because there's nothing being shot and there's going to be a bit of a downturn in what's coming out. So people are just getting their movies ready to be released. So we'll see how that all goes, but it keeps me busy for sure.
That's sweet.
It's interesting to hear you say that, Mike. Like, do you think that it'll go back? Like, obviously, you're a person like most of us. You want that close interaction, and to be able to teach somebody close is pretty important. Will you continue online, or will you do both? Or
I might still do some online stuff. I'm not sure if I'll have that option. I mean, it depends on I'm working for a music school, so we'll see what they have in mind. I don't mind the online thing. We're figuring it out as we go. So there's ways to send music back and forth, and so I can even we use Zoom, and you can draw stuff. I can do stuff live, and I can send stuff to them immediately.
Wow.
So it's not so bad, really.
Nice. Good to hear.
And less transportation time, obviously. There's less traffic from this chair to this chair. So
are you in Toronto, I assume?
I'm in Hamilton, actually.
In Hamilton. Correct. So
just outside of Toronto.
Just outside, that's right.
Yeah.
I got to ask you, we obviously run fight promotions, and it's a big event to us. You're looking at 1,500 people compared to what you've, it's a big event still, but you've played in front of huge audiences. How do you deal with it? Like, how do you take that in, like, just keep it all like here and be like, man, I'm doing it. Don't care. I'm doing it.
I'm not sure if you kind of don't think about it in a way. There's so many people that it's almost more intimidating playing to 3 people in a little club than it is playing to 30,000 people in a stadium, because you don't have those faces to sort of latch onto. There might be a few that you sort of gravitate towards, but there's like, it's a weird kind of non-existence when you're when you're playing in front of those people, because you kind of shut all that off, right? You're just, well, it's just a city you're playing in front of now, instead of like somebody that's, you know, got their arms crossed and they're the other thing about those big giant shows is everybody's having a good time, so there's nobody nobody sitting there with their arms crossed. It's a big party. So
sit in the middle. This sucks. This is bullshit.
I'm sure it happens, but you can't see them, so that's the good part.
Yeah, it's true. It's incredible to me, John. Like,
yeah, I was gonna say the feedback from, you know, when you get into like 20, 30,000 or whatever, you're playing those large numbers. There must almost be like a physical feedback of noise or energy from that large of a crowd.
It is, yeah. As soon as you walk on stage, you can hear it, you can feel it. There's an energy that is sort of circulating around the place.
That's got to be pretty incredible.
You can get that in a club sometimes too, and there's a lot of back and forth and a lot of movement, and you know, it's a nice gig.
Yeah,
no doubt.
But like anything, you know, nothing comes easy. A lot of hard work. What got you into it?
Well, I've sort of done it my whole life, which I'm sure a lot of people say. Like since I was 5 years old, I've been playing some kind of instrument. So, and I think like I've been playing in bands since I was 9 or 10. So it's hard to even think back before any of this started. We used to live right behind a club, and my house, the backyard sort of backed onto a bar, and I used to sort of sneak over to hear this is when I was very young, sneak over to hear the bands. Like I'd be standing outside the club, and I was sort of fascinated by the fact that people could play music, you know, because I had heard it on records and things, and just hearing people play it for real is a totally different experience. So that I just that's sort of what grabbed me, I think, is just seeing people being able to do it. That I didn't think you could. I thought it was just some magic that came out of your speakers, you know.
Yeah, it's an incredible talent. It really is, you know, like, and this is nothing compared to it by any means, but I spent some time working on cruise lines. And one time I was working on the cruise line, Jennifer Hudson happened to be on the same ship as me. I'm not sure if you're familiar who that is, but she's so she's quite well known singer and actress in the United States there. But anyway, the rest of us were all kind of partying and not paying attention. We were all just kind of drunk and being fools, like early 20s. She didn't really associate with anyone. She kind of went there. She did her work, and you look at her now, right? Like she knew what she wanted, and she was all business, and it paid off. It's cool to see people. It's a lot of hard work.
Yeah, and it's focus really as well, and it is hard work. People mention the word talent, but really what it is, it's a passion for it. Like when I started off, I didn't put the guitar down. I constantly had a guitar in my hands. I would fall asleep with it. I would wake up and start playing it again. So it's a determination that you just want to keep getting better at what you do. And that's what sort of kept me going and getting better I'm still getting better all the time. You never consider yourself done. You're always trying to improve, right? There's always more to learn.
Yeah, more like a discipline.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's the thing in jiu-jitsu. I guess you at least got a belt. So, you know, I got a black belt, but in music, because in jiu-jitsu, right? You could, but in black belts, they say when you actually start to really learn, right? And as John will contest too.
In jiu-jitsu, they stop at blue belt.
yeah. Like, but how like in music, there is no, like, it's the same thing. It's like but
it's like boxing and stuff as well, right? You just go. It doesn't matter. We'll say you're a black belt in guitar, Mike.
Yeah.
Well, my brother is into karate, and he's got a few black belts. There's different
There you
degrees,
go.
right? So
Yeah,
you can sort
absolutely.
of move beyond the
Oh
the
yeah,
belt.
absolutely.
Very,
Yeah,
very true. I
yeah.
gotta ask you there, Mike. I know there's a funny story here behind. If you don't mind getting into it, if you do, that's too.
Okay.
I guess you don't have to answer it either. But about the ransom, the footage of your first music video.
Oh, right.
It's a kind of a cool story.
It wasn't our first. It was
First one down there, I believe.
It was the first one in Mexico. Yeah, that we shot in Mexico. So yeah, we shot a video in Mexico for the song "I've Been Good." It was on our last record, actually. So we've done a few videos before then. At the end of the shoot, we came down to the courtyard in the hotel, and there was a lot of frowny, glum-looking crew members sitting in the courtyard, and we were sort of wondering what happened, right? And so one of them told us that somebody had put the reels of tape, back in those days. I guess there was still film and things like that. So they put it they were the drivers. They were supposed to deliver the film, and they ended up just taking off with the film, and they wanted 10 grand, or we'd never see our video alive again. So the production company had to pay it because they were doing a lot of work for Warner, and they knew that if they didn't, they had to take care of it, or that would really hurt their relationship. So
wow.
So that was the only video I know of that's been held for ransom. But
yeah, for real. It's crazy. I've always heard that, like people always say, oh, the fight business is so hard, but I don't know if it compares to the music business.
Oh, no.
You get beat up a little less in the music business.
Yeah.
You still get beat up though. And the guy that took the video, and it's kind of a sad story, because the guy on the last video shoot, I think it was for a band called Wide Mouth Mason, and they had also shot down there, and he rolled the truck, the crew truck, and he had a neck brace on the whole time, and I guess he had no insurance, and they don't have the same kind of health care there, so he was just desperate for money, right?
Wow.
So that's why he ended up taking it to that extreme. So it's kind of too bad, but
that is too bad. There's with every good, sometimes there's some bad, but it's too bad. But John, do you have any questions or
bigger moment in your career, winning a Juno or getting on Big Shiny Tunes?
Big Shiny Tunes was amazing.
Big Shiny Tunes.
We were on the first Big Shiny Tunes.
You certainly were, yeah.
So we had no idea how sort of iconic it would become, and that it would go on to have another 15 or 20 volumes. So we were on other compilations, and so it was really kind of no big deal to be on Big Shiny Tunes.
Okay.
For us, because we thought it was just another compilation. But now, in hindsight, we know how important it was to people, that everyone had a copy of it, and there's even a book. I've got a book about it. There's a whole
oh, cool,
a whole book about the making of it and the impact that it had. And
they were just awesome compilations, and compilations used to be a pretty big deal. I remember back, in high school and the early 2000s and that. Big Shiny Tunes was just epic. I'm 29.
Well, it puts you beside like Alice in Chains and bands like that, and so it really sort of puts you on an international stage as opposed to just being a Canadian band. So.
Puts you on a level with everybody.
No question. Well, you toured with everybody. What was a moment that, because here we're asking you as fans, right? But, you made it. So, there's times where you're sitting there oh, I'm looking beside, there's Dave Grohl or whoever it happens to be. But there's also moments you sit there and you're like, no, I'm the man. I'm the man because I made it here,
not for me. There's
not for me. Yeah.
Not really.
I mean, not for me either, but there are, sometimes it's, but okay.
But I know what you mean. I think the best thing in my mind, I mean, it's great, with Dave Grohl and guys from Green Day and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But, I think really the best part of all that is just playing with a band that is a machine of its own. And when you're fronting it, it sort of feels like you're not even, it's like you're floating on the on the crest of the wave sort of thing. And I think that's the best part of playing. And even your crew and the sound guy and everybody's sort of working together to make this machine run, and sort of to be a integral cog in that wheel is really a nice feeling. So I think that was the best of all of that, because you become a well-oiled machine after a while.
Yeah, very well said. Because John, that kind of brings me to sorry to interrupt there, John, but that from us, again, from a production standpoint, right? Like you want everything to be perfect, and like you see that, like, to be tight as a band, I guess, right? Is a goal. And I'm sure, like every show, I'm sure there are things you can work on, but it must have been a pretty cool feeling, like you said, to be able to do that and, experiences that as a group.
Yeah. And it kind of drives itself after a while. Like I said, like you don't really have to work. It's not as much work. It's more just you're along for the ride yourself. And I think any smooth running production, any movie or any theater production or anything, when it starts to really take off and run itself, that's when when it really becomes its own entity. So I'm sure any production is like that too. When everything runs incredibly smoothly.
Everyone knows their job, all the moving parts.
Yeah, and everybody works together to make this thing happen.
Yeah, it's pretty neat. Like in that, I think there's a difference between like a production and then a live show. Like a live event is a whole different thing altogether, right?
Than a filmed or a pre-recorded. Yeah, definitely.
You don't get second chances.
So from the thing about the pre-recorded stuff, I did a video for Nikki Heinrichs, and we and I've done a couple of my own films, and I work in films obviously with the music and things, but that also becomes it's such a team that everyone's got their own expertise. And then when you put it all together and you see the finished product, it's almost even more surprising, because you see it with the VFX and all that stuff, and you look at it and it's like a real movie all of a sudden, right? So it's that's another interesting aspect, just to see it. It surprises everyone on the team because they're like, wow, somebody else just contributed that and made it look so much better, or sound so much better. So
that's very cool.
Is that why? Oh, sorry, John, go ahead.
No, I was going to go on another question. You go right ahead.
Is that why you got into, like, again, you're an integral.
We're having trouble with that.
Yeah, a massive part of the band, in the process and the production. Is that what kind of drew you into the whole behind the scenes production aspect of it that you're working on? You've always probably dabbled into it, but is that why your main focus now is that, or?
To be honest, the music that I'm doing now for films and things is what I've wanted to do since before the Killjoys, and been sort of working towards that for years and years and years.
Cool.
I took that break to be with the Killjoys for a while there. I had done some TV stuff and little things, but was really working towards it. And then I took the whole 90s off basically, and sort of just sort of came back into it, which was it was another era. As with, it seems like anything in the arts, the money wasn't quite the same and everything was a lot different, but I sort of started again once I got out of it, and out of the Killjoys, I mean.
Nice.
So cool. I'm still touring with Simply Saucer, that band you mentioned before.
Nice.
I've got a band called Cemetery Spawn that
nice.
does music for horror movies, but songs. So like that started because a friend of mine was making a movie called Exorcism of the Dead, and I was doing the score, and he wanted a song for it that he described as something like Doc in Nightmare on Elm Street, the Dream Warriors. So I wrote this sort of metal tune for him, and I played all the instruments and everything, and that was so much fun. It was so much fun to do that sort of 80s metal thing that I did I've done now 3 volumes.
Wow.
It's not all it's all different styles, depending on not different styles. It's all kind of metal.
Yeah.
But it's been a really great experiment. So I've done 3 EPs of music with Cemetery Spawn, who has become a real actual band since.
Cool.
So it's we've actually got guys together. We played 2 gigs before everything kind of before the bottom fell out of everything.
Yeah.
But, one day we'll be back to it, I think.
Yeah.
We can always hope.
Yeah.
Right?
Eventually. Yeah. When way back when you took that break off in the 90s with the Killjoys, what was the turning point in your musical career where you were like, okay, this is financially viable, we can stop working regular jobs, go be the Killjoys, ride this wave for as long as we can? Like, was there a moment, or like when you signed with somebody, or something that comes to mind?
It might have been when we started touring more, I think, because there was no way. I mean, I was playing, it's hard to say sort of the moment, but I was playing in other bands too. I was playing in some cover bands and making money that way. And I haven't had a job for a very long time, like a real job. So
nice.
Very jealous.
Nice.
Very jealous.
That's so sweet. Yeah.
Amen.
And it's not been easy, but I've done it this far anyway.
Worth it.
And I think what happened was when I was on tour, in Hamilton, I was paying $325 a month, and I always had roommates. So rent was, it was not really it wasn't a hard thing to scrape together every month. But the Killjoys wasn't really a money-making venture. Okay. We were making, I think, $400 a month or something like that, because there were so many expenses that had to come off the top. We had to pay for the crew and the management, the bus, the this and that. We didn't always have a bus, but for a long time we did. And so there was so much expense involved in touring that there wasn't a lot at the end of it all. But I wouldn't have changed it for the world. And
the experience has got to be worth. Yeah,
absolutely.
You got to experience something that's very small amount of the population will ever experience. But I think a lot of people don't realize that a band is really a business, isn't it? The people playing the instruments are part of the business, and the people running the back end and the expenses and the overhead and everything else. What it breaks down to, you got to produce a ton of overhead. Yeah. Yeah.
No, I didn't really at the time. I probably do a little bit more now, but I didn't have a business brain at all. So we had management and people that sort of took care of all that stuff for us. So, but I've learned over the years to be better at that end of things. But it's definitely something that I think bands seem to be better at it these days than we were at the time. The bands doing everything themselves. Yeah, they can just do it all online. There's there's apps for everything, and there's I think there's access to people like accountants and entertainment lawyers, and it's all at your fingertips now.
Yeah, it really is. Back in the day, I mean, what's a manager do? If you didn't know or know somebody, you kind of stuck.
There was no. We didn't know there was other bands. There was another punk band called the Killjoys in the UK. There was one in Australia called the Killjoys. We didn't know because there was no way to look it up, right? So
that's it. Anything me and Derek do now, we're like, did you Google it? We just Google it up, and then
check the encyclopedia under A
to
J.
That's right. Yeah.
There's really no excuse not to be a know-it-all these days. So
there's a lot of them out there. Those keyboard warriors, man. It's funny. Like I don't know.
I'm waiting for Neuralink, then I'm going to be a genius.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's my plan.
That is it's smart, John. Smart. It's kind of like any advice for people. You talk about managers, and I deal with a lot of athletes. John I think it's super important to have someone around you who you can trust that's going to guide you in the proper way. Now, not everybody. I don't necessarily think all managers make the right call, and I don't think every athlete manager kind of makes sense. But do you think it's important for a young musician or young athlete to have someone around them to guide them and make those choices, help them make the right choices?
I think
it's a hard question.
The choices are a big thing. Making better business choices. It's also good to have the support. You've got that. It's a confidence builder to have someone on your team and behind you all the way. And it's because you're making money for them at the same time as they're making money for you. And it's a symbiotic relationship. So you've got to be making money for someone else to make money for yourself. And I really think that happens a lot of the time. So you've got the support behind you. You can make better decisions. You expand your connections because you've got their network as well as your own.
Very true.
So I guess I think it's important. I'm not sure how it works with other areas of expertise as far as managers go, but I think the main thing is the support, though.
Yeah. I think it's just why I asked that is you hear so many stories about, people go astray, whether it's an athlete or a musician, and then you also hear lots of stories about, that the musician and the manager kind of also led them astray and took their money and blah, blah, blah. So it's like, it's kind of a 50-50, I guess, I guess it all depends on the person and the artist themselves.
I think that they want you to succeed no matter if they make mistakes or not, because they succeed if you succeed. Right? So they're going to work that much harder for themselves ultimately, but you also benefit from it, whether they make mistakes or they make wrong choices or if they sometimes they take off with all the cash themselves or whatever. Many things can happen, but those are all. I think they're pretty rare cases when things go horribly wrong.
Yeah.
Well, that's the only ones you hear about, right?
You do. Yeah, that's right.
Well, there's artists all over the world every day working with management and agents and stuff that doesn't happen to them, so there's lots of good ones for sure. So, well, it's been an honor to talk to you, Mike. I think,
thanks. You too.
I don't know if you come to the East Coast too often, but we'd be honored to if you're ever interested in coming out here and coming to an event or anything, we'd love to have you. And if you ever want to come and join the podcast again and chat,
we'll keep in touch.
Yeah.
We're all Instagram friends now, I think, or Facebook friends or something like that. So, yeah, absolutely. Maybe we'll be touring out that way too in sometime in the future. You keep thinking that things are going to go back to normal, but it might be semi-normal. Who knows?
Yeah, we will see.
Right. Well, if there's anything we can do to promote that show here on the East Coast, but we can get you the concert, before our fight, we can work it out that way or something.
We'll get you a fight, Mike.
Bill,
we'll line a fight up for you, bud.
yeah, there you go. All right, man.
Knock that off your bucket list.
Yeah, exactly. I'll send my brother in instead.
There you go.
That makes sense.
Well, it's been an honor, man. Thank you so much
guys.
for joining us. And love you up there in Hamilton, my man.
Thank you very much.
Okay, take care. Mike Trebilcock, folks. Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. Yeah, awesome. It's it's so important to we're an MMA company, an event production company, but there, everybody, you can learn from everybody. And especially when people like that, he's a professional musician who's played in front of like 30,000.
Got some life experiences.
Yeah. It's interesting, right? Like to know how to handle that stuff,
Such a cool guy. And I mean, circle back to what his passion was, which is, creating scores and music for film and television.
Yeah, that's great.
That was cool. Really
that's great. Well, I gotta, just before we bring on another guest, John, we got some stickers to give away later on the broadcast. Just make sure, folks, if you are watching, make sure you comment on the broadcast here. Just say something, whether it's John is very handsome or Derek is not. Whatever you want to comment, just put it on there. We got some beautiful stickers. I don't know what this one is, but he's got a mask on. So I'll send you that one. And then this is Nova Scotia Strong from our sponsors, Conway Customs. So we'll get that out to you. Just give us a comment there, folks, in the comment box, and we'll get those stickers out to you. John, second guest. Hell of a guy.
Yes, he is.
Yeah, he really is. He's a guy that he doesn't get enough credit, I don't think, in my opinion. For what he's done on the East Coast combat scene, especially even my events randomly, like he's always kicking around and just a hell of a guy, a positive person, but also a very smart person. Give us a lead into Dr. Ken Salzman, should we?
Yeah, my good friend, Dr. Ken Salzman, currently runs the emergency room here in Kentville, up in the Annapolis Valley. I don't want to get too far into it because I'd like to talk to him about it too much, but this is a guy that's a fight fan. He's been involved in wrestling since way back. A member of Abaya, trained jiu-jitsu with us. He's been out with injuries. He's still involved with the gym. He's still, working with the guys and helping out with the meds. But he's also somebody that's donating his time to help with amateur boxing and combat sports in the Maritimes as wherever he can. So just an awesome guy to have around, and one of those people that genuinely just likes helping people and making people feel better. And yeah, we should.
I love those kind of people, man. Let's bring him on.
Yeah, man.
Without further ado, if he's not blushing now, I don't know what's going on. Dr. Ken Salzman, how are you, sir?
He is, well, no.
Yeah, well, I'm already purple. Thank you.
Welcome
is
to
it
the show,
super
sir.
hot in there, Ken? Are you okay, bud?
Yeah, I'm okay. It is kind of warm back here. I'm actually at the hospital in a back room, and there's no ventilation.
Oh, no.
Perfect.
Just to clarify one small point, I don't run this emergency department. I just work in it.
Yeah, sorry.
Tonight you're running it, Ken. You're running it.
Yeah.
Well, by the way, before anyone says anything else, thank you for doing what you did for our events, but also thank you for doing what you're doing now, my man.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah, well, and I'm sure it's everyday stuff for you, but it's a harder place to be probably now more than ever.
It can be. I mean, wearing masks for 8 hours at a time can be pretty frustrating, and you're breathing your own exhalation every time, and it can get pretty hot, pretty sweaty.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
How busy is it at the hospital there now?
Well, interestingly, it's not as busy as it has been. Because we had Nova Scotia Health Authority and a whole bunch of our folks here work together to create a diversion plan, so that we had a primary assessment center. So if people were concerned about COVID-19, they would call 811 or another number, and they would screen them and then refer them to that primary assessment center away from this hospital. If they needed, it did work. Yeah. If they needed further treatment, they would be then referred on to the secondary assessment unit, which was in this hospital, but not in the emergency department. And then others came to us. But now the primary assessment centers have been shut down because there's not as much going on. So they all come to us, but we're still not overrun.
Good news.
Very good news. Good.
We've had a few come through with the positive COVIDs, and we've had a couple of admissions, but compared to Halifax and places like that, nowhere's close.
So the social distancing, the staying at home, the not going to the hospital because your nose is running, all these things that were put in place and people were asked to do, and that, I think for the most part are following, they seem to be working, and those steps proved to be effective, would you say? Or Ken, I don't want to put you on the spot at all here. You know what I mean? I know there's certain things you probably can't discuss. You know me, I'm going to just ask questions. So,
the people need to know.
Yeah.
Inquiring minds need to know. I think they are working. I certainly can see a difference, even when you're following the trends of new cases and, cases that have recovered, et cetera. Here, especially in the Western zone, which is the one that I'm most familiar with, it's where I work. There's been no new cases for a couple of weeks, and then maybe one or two sporadic ones that come up. And there's been no community spread in the Western zone that I know of at this point in time. So those measures put in place are working. And interestingly, we've seen even less of the general flu season type influenza illnesses, simply because people are doing the same things and therefore not spreading it.
Makes sense.
Yeah, it's good that people are listening. It's so important. It's, I got to say, I'm getting frustrated myself, but it's one of those, it's like a first world frustration. You know what I mean? Like that's really what it is. Like it's like there's people in the world that they're just going to come and knock down your door and take your shit. And then it's not like it's, like here, it's like, I just like to get some beer delivered and maybe a little takeout. If
my
that's
friggin'
okay.
Wi-Fi was buffering and I'm pissed.
I can't get into Netflix and this is the biggest bullshit. But It's, like, even that's the thing. Like, John and I were talking today, and like I've lost my whole industry. Like, it's probably going to be a long time before I'm screwed. But at the end of the day, you have to look. Who cares? Like, who really cares? You have your health. It can always be worse, right?
What's really important.
Yeah.
Ken, so yeah, right. I mean, and now I think more than ever, people are starting to realize that, or at least getting to that point. Is there any worry about an uptick or a re-wave? Like, what's the general vibe at the hospital? Are you guys feeling pretty confident in things, or are you still on the edge of your seat?
We're optimistically confident. However,
you're realistic.
There's a chance the realistic aspect of it is that there's usually a second wave that China's actually dealing with now. That could very well hit us once we relieve some of these. I've lost you there. I am. Some of these things that are in place with the social distancing, stay at home, stay the blazes home.
That was great, by the way.
Steve McNeil. Yeah,
they're doing fantastic, and anybody who doesn't agree with that, like, I go sit in their shoes for a day.
Absolutely, that's a job I would not want, especially in this present day and age. And people can say that they're doing too much, they've overreacted, etc. But if you do overreact, there's really no way to ever know. But there sure as hell will be if you underreact.
Yeah,
really, right? And I mean, what's the age-old saying? Better to be prepared and not need it than need it and not be prepared or not have it or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely.
You look at Northwood. You can have that all over the province, possibly. And it's scary stuff, man. So hopefully people just keep another few weeks, and we're almost there, right? And thank you to everybody that's working through it, because it's for real.
I know a lot of the first responders and the nurses and that working at the hospital were really worried, like during the end of March and April, where I guess the fear or it was all new. Everyone was talking about it. We didn't really know how it was going to affect everybody. There's a lot of questions to be answered. Like, people seem genuinely scared to be working. Is that eased up a bit? Like, is the stress level and everything else with the people in the hospital and everyone else that's face to face with it?
Yeah, it has settled some, at least. I mean, from my perspective, it was the only time in my life that I feared coming to work.
Really?
And I genuinely was concerned.
Wow.
And I meant to get into this at the beginning before I didn't mean to jump right into COVID stuff, but you're a retired military doctor.
That's correct.
I don't know what kind of action or whatever you saw during your time in the military, but you spent a full career in the military, and this is the worst thing you ever dealt with as a doctor so far as something you were worried about, eh?
That's correct. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty intense, really.
And was that because just what you didn't know about it? Like, I guess knowing what you know now, would you have been as worried, or was it more because of this is what it could potentially do, or we don't really know, and right now we're at peak of it? I don't know. Does that make sense?
It's primarily because it was sort of just coming into its peak, and it was so very contagious.
Yeah.
And outcomes for people between 50 and up with chronic lung diseases, hypertension, diabetes, we're very guarded. There are people who were that age that were dying from this, and that's pretty scary when you're 55, have asthma and hypertension. So coming in and actually being in the midst of where people are coming through with a potential infectious disease that my body has never seen before, so my immune system cannot fight, is quite frightening. And then the other aspect is taking it home to my family.
Yeah. I think that's the big one. But you still went to work.
Yes.
And I got to say, I'm very glad to hear the Prime Minister finally came out and said, okay, the people who are working on the front lines, were doing something for those people. Like, it took a while, but you guys deserve every damn penny and more.
They're up in minimum wage for them, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah. Minimum wage. I'm confused.
Yeah, that's what he's doing. The first line workers that are earning minimum wage are getting a bump. That's it.
Oh.
Yeah.
So no one else?
I don't think so.
Not at this point, but I mean, really. That's it.
Pretty sure Ken's not getting a raise. Sorry.
Can I,
No.
I don't know if this foot or both feet will fit in my mouth, Ken.
It's okay.
What's your,
I owe you a coffee.
You can.
I'm perfectly fine with that.
You want a sticker?
But either way, right? Those people are still there as well.
Absolutely, and we couldn't function without them because they're the ones that are bringing us our mask and our PPE and so on, and our supplies. And if they're not getting here, we can't do our job. And those guys are out and girls are out, exposing themselves as well. And they deserve to be compensated for it.
Yeah,
I mean, we signed up for this; they didn't.
Yeah, true that, eh?
Yeah. Scary
that
shit.
Makes a lot of sense.
It really is. Yeah.
Man, what do you think we've kind of learned so far? I mean, we're about 2 months into lockdown. We're getting close to that anyway. What are we, 7 weeks, I think?
Somewhere in that range, yeah.
Going forward, if this hits again, what do you see happening? Do you see another quarantine, social distancing? Do you see this becoming protocol, the way this was handled?
I think that we've learned a lot about how to deal with a pandemic of any nature. I mean, this is a global pandemic. It's fairly large. The speed at which they got things in place was actually quite impressive. I was really impressed with the people that were involved on our end and in the province at getting things in place to help mitigate the spread as well as deal with those who were infected. And, I think now that we have that in place, it's probably going to be easier to ramp it up again if need be.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, no question.
That's good to hear. That's nice to hear that.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, do you know anything about like stockpiling PPEs, or are there protocols that have been going to be put in place for these kind of things that there's been shortages of during this time?
One of the things they're doing is re-sterilizing N95 masks and putting them aside in case they're needed. At present, we're not using them, but they will have the ability to sterilize them to prevent any backlogs. And I know that there are some N95s being made in Canada now.
Nice.
Ford, I believe, or General Motors, I think was one of them.
It could be. I know this is in Vancouver. They were making paper products before, and they retooled to be able to make N95s.
Cool.
Nice. Wow.
And John's just grilling you. He's just grilling you.
I was gonna say.
I was gonna ask you a sports question. Break it up.
I was gonna get off this topic as well. Go ahead, Derek. I'm interested to hear what you have to add.
It's okay, because at least it's something I know.
I forgot the question, John.
Oh, I wanted to get into. So Ken, I really appreciate your input on all this stuff. I mean, a lot of us are just sitting at home with questions, right? And we all ask each other the same questions, and none of us know what's going on. So it's great to get that insight from somebody that's in there living it every day. Jiu-jitsu, amateur boxing, mixed martial arts, kickboxing. I mean, you've obviously been at mine and Derek's tournaments. Obviously, the Dubai Open. I can see you got the T-shirt on there now.
Nice.
Huge supporter of the gym. Huge supporter of the sport and combat sports and amateur combat sports in general. Background in wrestling. Get into it, Ken. Give us some of your background and how you ended up talking to us here tonight, man. Like, I know you obviously from Abaya, but yeah, man, you're a man on the scene. Let's hear about it.
Well, I'm on the scene. Yeah. Well, I wrestled from high school for about 10 years. I took a coaching certification course, and I did Taekwondo for a while, about 3 years. Did not take my black belt test because I got knocked out in practice and couldn't remember what I learned in medicine that morning. So I got scared and got chickened out on the black belt test because I didn't want to. If I had just gone to the next lecture, I would have realized that concussion causes amnesia for a short period of time, but it comes back. However,
medical degree,
that's it.
No black belt.
That's it. I chose the medical degree. And then, of course, in the military, we did some hand-to-hand stuff and unarmed stuff for fun. And then there was a little bit of boxing. Usually I was just getting punched. So I don't know if I'd call it boxing. More like a punching bag.
Still boxing if you try it.
At least I got in the ring with him because nobody else would. We were out in the field, and I ended up being carried back out of the woods as I was walking backwards in, had no idea where I was. That was a right hook to the jaw. I remember the punch. Man. I didn't even see it coming. However,
those are the worst ones.
They are. And little Shotokan karate, didn't care much for that. And then I, got talking to, I think it was Peter from the club.
It was.
Because I was doing his meds for his fight, and he suggested I come out and hang out. I met you that night. Tossed Doug on his head, and then he kept my arm. So
yeah, that's right.
He kept my arm.
And we've been friends ever since.
He then introduced me to a triangle shortly after that.
Yeah, that's right.
I said, "Wait a second, this isn't how this is supposed to go."
Funny.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. No, I remember that Ken came in. He'd been introduced to me. I didn't know anything about him. He came in, got on the mat, and just started moving around with Doug Anderchuk, who's been a member for forever. He's a brown belt. He's fought amateur, and they were moving around. And I mean, I know what Doug's capable of, and Ken just whipped him on his head. Of course, once he hit the ground, Doug knew what was going on. But as soon as I seen that takedown, I was like, "Boom! You're going to teach some wrestling here, bud." And he did. He taught a bunch of wrestling at Abaya, and it's been wicked. It's a huge help.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then I mean, you do a lot of work with Martel, and pretty much anybody that is in need of a doctor, you're there, man. You know, whenever you can be.
Absolutely. The amateur boxing stuff is where I really got sunk in nice and deep. I got to start off with Kelsey Frazier and Peter Martel.
Yeah.
I did one for them, and then once folks found that I was volunteering my time to do it, lots of folks were interested in having me come. I had to actually cut back on the numbers of people because I was getting overwhelmed quickly.
With medicals.
He was doing medicals and doing the number of shows they wanted me to do. So I try to stick to the amateur stuff, and with the clubs that reinvest the money they save having me there back into their clubs, so that the kids are the ones that actually benefit from it.
And a lot of the amateur boxing clubs, that's how they operate.
Absolutely. Kelsey said that the one time he had to purchase a doctor, it cost him $1,000 for that night now, which I think is a little excessive, but anywhere between $500 and $1,000 for a doc for one night.
Hey, it's a good thing Trudeau's chipping in to help you guys out in this.
Yeah, it sure is.
What a dick.
That a boy, Derek. Who's blushing now?
That would be me. I'm crying, actually, with embarrassment.
Yeah.
Oh, my.
And I mean, the other things that I did, I mean, I showed up at the 2-day tournament at Derek's. He didn't know I was coming. I showed up with my trauma bag and looked after the folks that were there.
Yeah, good man. This is the only time I ever had a medic there. Like, literally, you were running off your feet. I was like, "Where's Ken? Where's Ken?"
Man.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how many times I've done that at Abaya. Someone dislocates their elbow or something, I just pop up and look around for Ken.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's been some interesting ones.
Ken. Man.
I actually put a guy's toe back on at your tournament, John. He had dislocated his second toe, and it literally was hitting off about 90 degrees to the left.
Wow.
I said, "This is going to hurt a little."
Oh, I think
who
was
I
that?
remember this perfectly because you went, "I'm going to count to 3," and you went 1, 2, snap. 3.
Yeah, you always pull it on 2 because they brace on 3.
Yeah, makes sense.
Taped it back together, and he finished the match.
Yeah, man.
Who was it?
Like butter. I can't remember who it was.
I don't think I'd be allowed to tell you anyway.
Yeah, I guess not. Right?
Yeah. Another fella popped 3 of his ribs, the cartilage along the side. He popped those off in a match, and I literally could put my fingers on the end of his ribs, and I went, that's not right. So,
whoa.
Yeah, he was going to be in pain for a while, but they eventually will settle, but he couldn't fight anymore that day.
I just popped mine like
that's one of the worst injuries.
2.5 months ago. Another one on this side and didn't stretch.
Yeah.
Sure enough, I was like doing a step back and boom, ripped him. Like, it's the worst. It's really a terrible injury.
It's hard to breathe.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Cough, laugh, do anything.
Absolutely.
Potter's saying that he reffed that match with the toe. Who was it, Potter?
What's up, Potter?
Yeah, Potter's on here now. He says, "Hello, Dr. Ken."
Hey, Ryan.
Yeah, it's I think giving back to the community is, obviously like doctors, nurses, teachers, the people that everyone's calling heroes now, right? Like firefighters, police officers, medics, like it's almost in your nature to give back, eh?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It is. I think so. I mean,
Why
I think it definitely
people.
is, Ken. You wouldn't do it as willingly and as often as you do if it wasn't what you felt was the right thing,
And I do think it's the right thing, and I think that combat sports kind of get a back seat quite frequently to some of the other mainstream sports. Hockey and baseball and even broomball. Hell, who knows?
Yeah.
But
no,
combat
they
sports
absolutely
don't.
do. Yeah.
Because they all think it's barbaric, but there's fewer injuries there than there is in most of the other games.
Exactly,
well,
that's just it. Like when I meet someone like you who's a doctor but doesn't have a bias against martial arts or mixed martial arts, it's amazing, and you've done a ton to help different fighters, not just on our card and other cards, but not from just a buy, but other guys. Like, hey, Ken, like so and so can't get their meds done. Can you help them out? And you're like, yep, no problem.
Yeah.
And I mean, I remember when I broke my arm in an amateur fight, and I went to the hospital, and they gave me so much attitude, so much shit. And there's a girl sitting next to me with a broken ankle from playing basketball, and she was golden. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like that didn't matter, but what I did was stupid, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, I'm practicing something that could potentially save my life. She's putting a ball in through a net. I'm the idiot, but
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's like you said, John, earlier. Like when all this comes, it's Doctor. You can interject if you like. I was reading listening to the Dr. Strang and the Premier talk about it earlier, and they're talking about the step process of us coming back. I was quite positive and quite happy, that we might be able to pull off some events this year. And after reading that and hearing him, we're probably not going to do one event this year. Like, it's legit. I don't think there's a jiu-jitsu club going to open this year.
Is this something you heard today?
Yeah, like the step process. They're like, it's legit going to be like a year. I could be wrong, but they need like 0 cases of like multiple days. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's like 0 cases for like a certain amount of days in a row.
I haven't seen it yet.
I don't know.
Doing Renos all day.
But it's like you said earlier, like hockey will be playing right away. Jiu-jitsu will not be allowed for a long time.
Yeah. Absolutely. You're less likely to sneeze in someone's face and you're playing hockey, however.
It's true.
True. But I like that part. Okay.
Drooling on your opponent, sweating and that sort of stuff. That's all part and parcel.
They might be able to have masks on too under the helmet.
You put like a bread bag over your head, and then you just run in. You go as long as you can. Rip the bag off, take a couple breaths.
I saw a woman on the other day on a video. She went into the grocery store and she had the mask on, and the hole was here. She had a hole in the mask.
Shut up. Yeah. So you can breathe.
And she goes, it makes it easier to breathe when there's a hole in it.
I have just the idea here. Let me see if I can find this quick picture.
I see another guy driving by himself with a mask on yesterday. So.
Oh yeah, there's lots. But yeah, so what do you think on that, Doctor? What I said. Could I be right or?
I really wouldn't be able to comment. I haven't checked the updates on the COVID-19 site here at the hospital. I was going to do that when I came in, but unfortunately I had some technical issues to get through because this place won't let me use Chrome, so I had to go to Firefox. So that's what I was doing, but so I don't have that answer yet, unfortunately.
Well, and that's it. No, I guess no one really does, but it's. I guess you think of what we do. It just kind of. I was pretty positive, but I look at it now and I don't really know if it's going to be possible to put.
You got both sides of it. You got small groups generally, right? Like a jiu-jitsu club maybe has 20, 25 people would be a big class.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right. Probably more like 15, 12. Maybe 20. Average would be lower. And then, but at the same time, you have that super close proximity. So you don't have the large numbers, but you have as close as you're going to get.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And if people are consistently, washing their hands and not touching that sort of thing, it's hard not to touch someone else's face when you're doing jiu-jitsu. But I mean, if you've got a bunch of healthy folks and are going in there all together and you're not bringing in extraneous people frequently that could potentially be asymptomatic carriers, then you're relatively safe. But the hard part is knowing which ones are which.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The home dungeons are going to be making quite the comeback, I believe, for sure.
I suspect.
For sure, and like I'm getting to the point now, I'm I need some running and push-ups is just not I need to choke somebody. Like it's you know, it's not, and I don't, you know, it's you know, you need that. Oh, I need to be choked. I know that sounds to anybody.
You need to be pushed.
You need to be pushed, right? Like
I need to be choked, really.
Yeah. Welcome to Shades of Grey, episode 47 with Dr. Ken Salzman.
And we have our new jiu-jitsu uniform.
Perfect. Yeah, that's exactly what, that's for no-gi.
That's for no-gi, yep.
Yeah,
you gotta wear it under your gi otherwise.
Someone grab you around the waist, you just shoot across the mat.
Well, the thing is, like, our politicians are like, we're in a conservative area for the most. Like, we have a liberal government, but for the most part, we're a conservative province, right? With a lot elderly population. Yeah. So that's where I look at it. Like, you know, they're going to protect that population, and as long as it takes, right?
Of course,
absolutely. I mean, there's more baby boomers here than there is anything else. Being one myself, but
certainly, yeah. No, that's where, you know, I got to say, Ken, I feel so bad for people like my parents who worked their ass off their whole life, you know, responsibly, like looked after their money, invested their money, ran a company, employed people. And now this comes along and they, you know, people, I don't know about them, or how many people lose all this money in the stock market and investments and their pensions and things, and there's no help for them.
Yeah,
you know,
truly.
There really hasn't been any help, and it's really hard to see for these people that, you know, like they never missed a day of work in their life, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. Until they've had to now. And
yeah.
What do? I mean, it's like my job. If we were not allowed to come to work, if I don't work, I'm not making any money. I'm not making an income.
Yeah. And that's the thing, right? Like if you look at they're 72, they can't go back to work.
No.
Yeah, you know, it's will the stock market rebound in that point? I don't know. You know, it's scary times, you know, at all the laughs we do have, I guess. But sorry to be the Dr. Doom.
That's okay. You be Dr. Doom, I'll be Dr. Emergency.
Yeah. John, you got any questions for
No, man. Ken, you have anything you'd like to say, man? Any last words you'd like to pass on to the good folks at Facebook and Fight League Atlantic?
For the most part, I'm finished with the COVID talk. Since I'm not getting any extra money, Derek.
I'll give my buddy Justin a call tomorrow.
Yeah, you go ahead. Yeah, right. I guess what I would say is I have been trying to recruit some more docs to come and do some more of what I do, and it's actually looking good. I've got a couple that are considering it, and that would be helpful because if there's 2 or 3 of us available to come do these things. Now they don't have a whole lot of background in the fight game or combat sports, where I think that gives me a bit of an advantage because having been in the ring, been on the mat, been kicked, punched, and so on, and choked. Oh boy, have I been choked. I understand what's going on out there. So when people are unconscious after they've been choked because they won't tap, I know they're not going to die. They just need some blood back to their brain.
Yeah.
And they usually settle quite nicely, relocating a joint and taping it up, letting them continue if they wish. That's fine too. Stopping fights prematurely, not something I'm really known for, but also not letting people get hurt. And when I'm at ringside, my eyes are on the fighters all the time. Yeah. Regardless of what's going on in the ring, I always have my eyes on the fighter because the things happen quickly and you don't always see them if you're not watching.
Yeah, very, very true. Did you do the UFC when they were here?
I did.
I thought so.
Peter Martell called in a favor from Lauren Marsh, and I got to be ringside for the UFC when it was here. It was very much fun.
Good for you.
Yeah,
good for you.
Super cool.
Yeah, it is cool. That's the thing, right? Like it's you do it for a passion, but like those are the moments you're like, this is a cool thing, Good
absolutely. And I never charge for any of this stuff. I do this all voluntarily because it's what I want to do. These are amateur fighters and they can't afford to be spending $50, $80 to get a medical done or $500-$600 to get blood work done and so on. So it's unfortunate that has to happen, but if there's more of us doing it, then it'll be less for me to do. But I mean, I've done 13, 14 medicals at once. People through. However,
hopefully, it's if we do, do these events, it's hopefully you will know how to do a COVID test.
Absolutely, I'd have to do that.
There you go. The UFC, they're doing the nose and blood.
Yes,
I believe both.
Really? Okay.
So that's where I don't know how we get around that, John. How we'd be able to do blood tests unless we're
lick this.
It would be very hard to do blood tests, but if you do a nasopharyngeal swab, first of all, most people won't want to come because who wants to have a swab shoved in their nose all the way to the back of their throat? And secondly, there is an 8 to 12 hour turnaround time on a test, but it's a very specific request and has to have internal medicine bless it. So it'd be very difficult to do, especially with the volumes of testing going through our labs right now. They're working 24/7 to get these swabs done.
Is there still a ton of people being tested? Not to bring it up again.
No, the numbers of tests have gone down because there's fewer people calling in with symptoms. So it's settling some. There are still a few, but not nearly what there was before. Now I just need Motive to open because I got about 10 patients that are dying at home.
Yeah.
Well, that's what the
I wish.
The UFC, like, they're getting away with doing that event in Florida because they paid the governor, and so did the Vince McMahon. They paid the governor to be reelected pretty much, and now they're all of a sudden an essential service. So that's how they're getting away with it, right? So
I think Motive is an essential service, Dan.
I agree. We need millions.
Definitely is for some people.
Yeah, my group for sure.
Yeah, 100%.
It's important. Health, like, couldn't be any more important, right? Like, even like things like they shut down like community gardens. Well, food, pretty important.
Absolutely. Right? I have my own apocalypse garden growing now.
There you go.
No doubt you do.
And I'd like to be able to still prescribe people exercise therapy, which I do frequently instead of medications for lots of ailments. But unfortunately, I really can't do that because they can't do it at home. They need someone to guide them, which is sort of the process we came to eventually with getting folks into Motive with me. And then so many of them have stayed that it's really turned out well.
Well, I mean, Derek, what we're talking about is we have a program me and Ken have been working on through Motive where Ken will actually prescribe exercise to people.
Smart.
And that comes with a month at the gym. So they're able to go to the gym for a month. And then he actually, I open the door to them, but then Ken brings them through the door, shows them the ropes, teaches them how to exercise, tracks their heart rate, makes sure they're okay.
Has a group of them.
Yeah, he's got a group of them that are all working together and have all come from the same situation, and it's been going really well. I mean, how long have we been doing that? It's got to be a year.
Oh, it's coming up on a year. I think it was May when I first got there with my first patient. My son was there before that. Then he turned loose on his own. But my wife and one patient started. Then her sister came in with the lungs transplant, and she's done absolutely amazing. And she's really quite bummed right now because she can't train, but she's training at home with a treadmill. I've got a couple of heart attack victims that are now post heart attack with stents that have done amazing.
Nice.
And you can't stop them now. A lot of them go by themselves on their own time and they still go. The rest of them all show up with us and we come in en masse. We refer to ourselves as the nerd herd. And I'm trying to organize a hike for us right now, but we were supposed to do it Thursday, but it poured rain all day. So
I think we got some nice weather coming this week.
I hope so. Yeah. So we get them out for a hike at least as a group so that we can, reattach ourselves to one another, because there's lots of talk, when we're doing it, they're talking even when they're on Messenger, because we are all attached to one message on Messenger. And people are talking about using the herd as their motivation.
Yeah.
They may not feel like going that day, but everybody else is going. So I'm going to go. And then once they get there, they see everybody working and I'm going to work too. And it really has worked out well. And people who really didn't think it was going to be much of a help for them have learned how much of a help it is for their mental health, for their blood pressure, for their anxiety, for you name it. It's good for everything. Exercise is critical.
Yeah, it really, really is. That's a whole, topic we could spend hours on. I even I was in the hospital last year for I've had kidney stones 4 times in my life, and the last year I went septic. And I was diagnosed wrong in the emergency room in the Aberdeen hospital. And they gave me the wrong medication and sent me back. About 4 days later, I ended up at the QE. And, I sat there and it's, you bless these people that are working their ass off. And these, some like the QE, like there were some things that there was a mouse running around the ground below me. And I was like, what's going on? the food. I look at that, like if you want to get someone back to health, food, like real nourishment,
Yes.
And like not like food that you're giving people, like give them real nourishment, like, and like you say, healthy living, it's, I don't know what I'm rambling about, but it's just, I think that's so important. Nourishment, exercise, the basics, right?
Yeah, that's what you're getting to, the basics, right? And most people, me and Ken have had this conversation 100 times. If there's not a magic pill to replace exercise, people are pissed. But a lot of times too, it takes somebody like Ken or an opportunity like being able to go into Motive where we've got all kinds of equipment. It's daunting, but if someone shows you the ropes and you get into that routine, you get to feel the positive side effects. And, it's that nervousness of having to learn something new. And a new social environment. There's people there that you don't know, right? Maybe you've never been to a gym and you're 50 and you're worried that people are going to look at you and be like, what the hell are they doing here? But you just can't have that. And we make sure in all our gyms, like a priority is that everybody is comfortable and welcome, of course, right? It's a no-brainer. So.
And that's the thing that I've heard the most from my patients, that if I had not gone with them, they wouldn't have gone because they were afraid.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah, sorry, I was just playing around with
They were in. Yeah, I didn't know what happened. I went, I'm talking to myself.
Keep talking.
I'm doing that a lot lately.
I don't know if I can switch it in time.
There we go.
You're killing me here.
There you go. Oh shit!
Well, back to the politicians, for God's sake.
Look at Derek learning it.
Yeah, they said they were very intimidated by a big gym like that because they were expecting these muscle heads in there, all giving them dirty looks and so on. So coming in with someone like me to walk them through stuff, and then meeting with the rest of the herd. And we're all different body shapes and types.
Yeah.
There's no superstars in there, and they're just getting healthy and feeling better. And once they get going, they realize that it is a family environment, and they're very welcome there. And Abaya is the same way. Abaya is like the most amazing family I've fallen into, and I mean fallen, or been thrown or choked or whatever. And it's an amazing place. And if I ever get these injuries all under control, I'd like to come back and teach some more wrestling. But we have a few minor things.
Yeah,
we'll get through it, man. We're not going anywhere.
No, that's right.
This thing lasts all year. We'll find some way to get a buy up and running. That's for sure.
There we go.
Rest assured.
Well, we got to go here, my man, and I'm sure you're probably trying to get back to work there. We got to thank you so much for doing what you're doing on the community. Not only the combat sports community, you've been doing it for a hell of a long time, but in your personal life too, working on the front line. So lots of love from my end, and I know John feels the same way.
Yeah, man. It's good to see you, brother.
Good to see you guys.
Yeah, keep it up.
Thank you so much, Ken.
All right.
You're welcome.
Stay safe.
Thanks for having me now.
Ken Salzman, folks. Great guy. Great chat.
Yeah, it was great to chat with Ken. It's weird, man. Like, he's one of those guys I see a lot, right? Because he's in Motive or he's kicking around a buy or whatever. And, yeah, man, I don't see these guys for a few weeks. It's nice to see a familiar face, I guess, right?
John, your gym is the only place I've felt at home. Know that you won't tolerate bullshit from anyone. That's a lie, Tina. That's a total lie. We love you and what you represent. Thank you.
Tina. I appreciate it.
No, John is a good guy. All right, let's go over these UFC predictions very, very quickly.
Yeah, man, let's do it.
If that's okay.
Do the main card?
No, man, we can't. Let's do the main card plus Cowboy Pettis.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Let's
start with that one.
All right.
I'm just pulling this up in front of me here,
All
so
right.
I don't jam my foot up my own. All right, man.
Finish that sentence, please. I've already had my feet in my mouth. Fuck.
Oh, poor guy. It's all right, brother.
Oh man.
We're just giving you a hard time.
Oh, I know. No. Shout out to all the doctors, nurses, though, and people in medical care. They all deserve a raise across the board.
Absolutely.
And I deserve a job. If anyone's looking.
It's hard to even. I'm just flicking through the card here again now, and it's hard to even just go with Pettis and that because the whole thing is ridiculous from top to bottom. I mean, Jacare versus Uriah Hall, then Carla Esparza and Michelle.
Okay, let's start there. Even the Vincente Luque, Nico Price, that's a rematch. Bryce Mitchell versus Rosa, Charles Rosa, a lot of grappling in that one. That could be interesting too. So where do you want to start? Let's do it quick because
Yeah. All right. Jacare versus Uriah Hall. Who do you got?
I do not like Uriah Hall. I think he's a cocky asshole, so I'm going with Jacare.
You know what? I'd really like to see Jacare go on another run as well. Nothing against Uriah Hall, but yeah, I'd love to see Jacare. Jiu-jitsu all day. Esparza versus Watterson. I'm going to go with Watterson on this one because she looked awesome. Her last fight and the
Who'd she fight? Didn't she lose the title fight in her last fight?
Yeah, she lost a decision to Joanna, right? Was that the last fight?
Yeah, she got the shit kicked out of her, though. But okay.
Yeah, that was the last one. She won 3 in a row before that. Okay. So I think Watterson's going to come back. I think based on what Joanna did her last fight, I mean,
yeah, and I think Carla Esparza
is the hardest fight she's ever going to have. Yeah, okay. I'm thinking Watterson's going to be back on the winning streak.
Okay, we're on the same page here, both.
I think Verdum is going to win. I think he's due to start making another run, and I think Olenek, even though with all of his experience and his win previously, last fight, I don't think he's going to take over Verdum. I think Verdum's ready to go on another tear.
Isn't this his first fight after steroids?
I don't know.
I think it is. I think after his suspension, this is his first fight back after his suspension. Pretty sure.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm going with Olenek then.
Yeah, I'm going with Verdum.
All right. Verdum.
And I think Pettis and Cerrone, the winner of that, the loser of that, I think is gonna. I don't know if they can come back.
Yeah,
to anywhere where they were previously. I'd like to see Cerrone win, but I didn't realize it was 2013 when he lost to Pettis. I had no idea that. It's been 7 years since that passed. I still remember watching that happen with that.
They look like boys almost.
Liver kick. Yeah. I'm going to go with Donald. I'm going with my heart on that one.
All right, I'm going to go with Pettis. Strictly because I just think he's the more, I guess, hungry. I don't know why. I don't know. I just think
he seems the most likely to go on another title run.
Well, I don't know. I think his last fight. I think he lost his last fight too, but I think he broke his foot. Anyway, I can't remember. But I'm going to go with Pettis because I think Pettis is just a little bit more hungry, and Cowboy drove his RV from New Mexico there, and he's probably just fucking smoking weed and drinking beers and getting ready.
Maybe.
All right.
Greg Hardy and Castro. I don't know. I'm not a Greg Hardy fan. I'm going to go with Castro.
Anybody who beats women. I don't want to bring that up, but I can't get over that, so I'm going to Castro all day long.
Yeah, so, I don't know what he did. I know there was allegations, but
no, he got kicked out of the NFL. It wasn't.
Yeah,
it's for real.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
And yeah, you're a changed man, sure, but still you do.
No, I'm not saying that at all.
Yeah, you're sticking up for him, John. I can feel it.
I said at the beginning I don't like Hardy, regardless of what he's doing outside the cage.
He's cocky though. I don't know. It's
Qatar and Stevens, man. I think Jeremy Stevens can end anybody's night instantly, but I think Qatar might take this one, man. I think Qatar's a sleeper.
I agree.
I don't know, man. He's super exciting. Either way, that's going to be an awesome fight.
Well, Jeremy Stevens missed weight by 5 pounds.
Oh, did he? See, I didn't see anything today, man. I haven't stopped working today, so
man,
I am out of the loop.
No excuses. This is a $315 bet.
And then
Nagano Rosenstruck.
See, I don't know Rosenstruck. I know Nagano has the touch of God, so
does that other dude too. That's
yeah. What is he? 10-0 with 9 knockouts.
Yeah.
God damn. Let's flip a coin. Nagano. I don't know.
All right, you go Nagano. I'll go Rosenstruck.
Yeah, and I'm going Dominic Cruz. There's no question. Cejudo can do whatever the fuck he wants. It's Cruz all day. Footwork and head movement, and just Cejudo being a dick.
The thing is with Cruz, though, he doesn't have the power, man. And another thing, too, is TJ is the exact same as Cruz. He moves the same way.
Similar,
yeah, similar, right? So it'll be very interesting to see. Like Cejudo, you gotta give him credit. I gotta be a believer.
Oh, you absolutely gotta give him credit.
He's so cringeworthy. It's hard. But I'm going Cejudo. And if he can pull it off, dude, if he can pull that off,
then
he's got to go down as one of the greatest of all time for real.
Because Cruz right now has got to be the greatest bantamweight of all time overall.
Who else?
He lost that bullshit decision to Garbrandt, and he lost by guillotine to Faber like 15 years ago. Isn't that it?
Yeah, he's just had terrible luck. But
people he's been out for 3 years right now. So
people would argue that TJ Dillashaw would be better, but obviously the steroid thing.
EPO helps.
Helped me in my grappling match there against judo. I lasted a little longer than I could have because of that EPO. Next match, I'm taking a double dose.
Maybe that's what I've been missing all these years. And then the last one.
Let's get Dr. Salsman back on. Let's talk about EPO and how we can get some.
That's right. How do I say
another show?
Yeah. All right, last one, man. Katy Ferguson.
Testosterone cream. I've heard that works really well.
Really?
Yeah. Not saying any names, but I know people that take it.
I know there's a lot of test boosts available at a regular supplement shop, and that can do a lot if you're in your 30s plus for recovery.
Oh, okay. I didn't really know that was. Oh, well, I probably should get some. I thought it was like a big.
Yeah. But no, you can take like ZMA and test boosts to produce, like to help increase your free test production. And then, of course, like once you hit your 30s and stuff, your testosterone starts to taper.
Yeah.
So that's why in your 20s you can get like hit by a fucking bus and train the next day because you got so much testosterone that pumps through your body. You're healing. So as you get older, you're going to need to do things like take Macroot or ZMA or a test boost.
Yeah, I probably should look into that. All right, let's get on to the last one.
Katy Ferguson. I mean, I don't know, man. I like both these guys. I mean, there's nothing not to like about Gaethje. He knocks people out. Super nice guy, but Tony Ferguson's the man. He's got that wicked streak, and if anything, I'd like to see Tony win just because I want to see him finally get to Khabib, or not just have 2 interim titles, but have the actual one. So I'm going Ferguson just because I want to see his streak and his legacy continue. But if Gaethje wins, I won't be hating on it.
It's a very good answer, John. I have
Thank
to.
You. Very political.
Well, no, I like them both too. I really do, and
yeah, man.
I am really happy to see Justin get a shot,
which
is I'm happy to vote. But
of course,
yeah, it's a toss up. But I also think Tony, he deserves it too more than anybody, right? So yeah, I'll go with Tony too. It's a tight one, but why not?
What are you gonna do?
That's it. So we don't have a show tomorrow night, folks. But we got to take one night off. I've been working steady here, 48 episodes that are all working.
Yeah.
Need a break. Anyway, we're going to launch a nice contest tomorrow, John, with these gloves. I haven't told you about it.
Yeah, sure, bye.
I just made it up. Anyway. This week, we're going to do a little contest with a pair of Fight League Atlantic gloves, folks. And we got a couple other things to add to the contest. We'll come out with that next week for our 50th episode. We'll be back Sunday night with a great episode, if I can find it. Sunday night
episode.
Yes, we're back with Aaron Harris, who is a grappler out of New York. Under Mike Wacker, competed in a lot of different events. And I believe possibly Nick Ronan, who's a black belt under Matt Serra. And we're trying to get Matt Serra there too, but I don't know if that's going to work. So yeah, and if we can figure out someone else to join us Sunday, we will. Otherwise, we got Aaron Harris. He came down here and competed for us a couple times. Great grappler. Stickers. He's got a mask on. Nova Scotia strong. John, can you see the comments?
Not at all.
Okay. Let's scroll down the comments, and when I hit stop, we will pass these stickers on to you, courtesy of our sponsors here at Conway Customs in Truro. Scott Conway, a hell of a guy. And as we stop here, it ends on Corinne Davidson.
Corinne Davidson.
Corinne Davidson. Looks like she might be a member of your gym. Is that right?
No.
Nope. She said she needs motive.
Oh, motive. Sorry,
maybe she needs motivation. Oh no, Corinne Davidson. Anyway, you're the winner of these 2 stickers. Yeah, you can just get in touch with John and give him your address, and we'll get these put out to you in the mail. And you can represent Nova Scotia Strong on behalf of our sponsors. So stay, folks. Stay safe tonight, and we'll catch up with you Sunday night. Enjoy the UFC. Enjoy the beautiful weekend of shitty weather. And if you can be anything in this world, folks, be kind.
Be kind.
Thanks, John. See you Sunday.
Awesome. Take care, everybody.